So I'm going to at least introduce everyone. This is Marcus Melnick. He is an old friend of mine. I've probably known him about 40 years. We
Okay.
both grew up in Skokie. We both went to Jane Stenson. We both went to Niles North High School together. And so welcome aboard, Marcus.
Thank you.
Why not interview people that I know, like, and trust? And I'm not looking to do hundreds of interviews. Um, Maybe in the long run, maybe we'll be a different member every day. But for the short term, let me try to interview 20 or 30 people, get some videos out there, and where people get to know people in different categories. And I think what you do is unique. And maybe it's not that unique, but it's important. And when I see posts that are going around in this scare of coronavirus, and there's a lot of fear. I
Yes.
think it's a lot of up your alley. So with that being said, other than I've already said where you went to high school, where you grew up. Tell me a little bit about after Niles North, where your life has taken you.
Well, chronologically, because to me that's the most logical step. After high school, I attended Loyola University, where I obtained a bachelor's and a master's degree in criminal justice and embarked upon a 27-year career in public safety roles. And some of those roles were security manager at Children's Memorial Hospital and various other hospitals in the Chicago area, as well as being the director of security at a suburban high school. My career path evolved, and I eventually went into public service in law enforcement and firefighting, where I was in administration in both of those scenarios, writing policies, conducting training, et cetera, et cetera. About 5 years ago, I made the switch to the private sector using transferable skills, so I no longer work in law enforcement. However, I own a company that is called Firearm Mentor, and the website is firearmmentor.com, where I conduct training for people both new and experienced who want to learn how to shoot firearms, specifically handguns. I offer private lessons, group classes, as well as Illinois concealed carry certification. And my B2B part of my business involves training armored car messengers and drivers so that they can carry firearms while protecting money. So that's very high level, but that's where I am today. I typically conduct one public concealed carry class per month, where we do the classroom part in Buffalo Grove, and then we will visit one of several different ranges, depending on where people live, and conduct the actual shooting portion of the class at one of those ranges. I also offer, if there's a group of people that want to have a class at their house, I will go to their house, plug into an HDMI port and a TV, or bring a projector, and about once or twice a month I do that, where I actually go into someone's house and train all their friends and family members, and then we visit a range nearby their home. And they walk out of it not only with a sense of confidence with firearms, but really knowledge about safety, which is the huge portion. I don't have anyone who's ever taken a class from me who's had an accident or negligence. And as a matter of fact, a couple of people who have taken the class from me have actually, I will say, been heroes and intervened in incidents that could have caused death or great bodily harm to others.
So other than hunting, do you have any hobbies or interests,
Well, let me clarify that. I'm not a hunter. I don't go out. I know you're being facetious. My interest in this is I put holes in paper, basically, or maybe pop cans along a fence. Not in the suburbs. This is, out on a farm somewhere in a rural area, or a place where you're supposed to do that. Other than that, hobbies. I love the outdoors. Summer is my season. Fortunately, where I live, I'm outside a tremendous amount, either swimming or starting a bonfire in the backyard. I kind of lie to myself and say, well, I'm doing it for my kids so they can make marshmallows, but I'm really doing it for me because I just love sitting outside, enjoying nature. And I do have 3 teenage children, so a lot of their activities take up my free time. So I don't have much free time after that.
So what attracted you and made you decide to, I guess, first get into the law enforcement thing? Because you never trained to be a police officer.
Correct.
You got the
Correct.
bachelor's and master's in criminal justice, which led into your career path. But obviously you had passion, I guess, for guns to begin with. I'm guessing.
Well, yes, it's a two-part question. So the first part, when I was growing up in Skokie, as you were, I used to hang out with my dad and watch all these police TV shows, and it was exciting. And when I was I want to say a sophomore in high school, I was recruited into the Skokie Police Department's Explorer program, where it really opened my eyes to what serving the public is all about. And it's not just running after bad guys and jumping over fences. It's serving the community. It's going to the elderly person's house and helping them change the battery in their smoke detector. It's talking to people. It's gaining public trust. And that's where my passion really started. And with, like most Jewish boys, my parents had me brainwashed into thinking I was going to be a doctor or a dentist. And that's a little bit funny, but it's true. But then I really found my calling with the Explorer program, which is basically a training program for youth that want to go into a certain career path. In my case, it was law enforcement, but there are Explorer programs for engineering and the medical field, firefighting, etc. My interest in firearms actually ran parallel to that. My father taught me how to shoot when I was 7 years old. So that was 40 years ago. So I have 40 years of experience with firearms. And it naturally grew because it's a tool that law enforcement uses. A lot of people are scared of guns, but it's just like a hammer or a screwdriver. A lot of people who've never held a gun all of a sudden do hold a gun. They do shoot in a safe manner. And holy cow, they fall in love. There's a sense of empowerment and focus. And you kind of shut out the real world, and all of your other things that are going through your mind go away while you're singularly focused on an activity. And it's loud and it's scary, but it's a lot of fun. Roller coasters are loud and scary too, and people get a rush from them as well.
That's a powerful analogy.
Thank you.
You're saying you have a real blast doing this.
Yes, business is booming.
So when did you start your own business?
Well, it's interesting. I've had my own business for about 15 years. It evolved into firearms training. It started. Go ahead.
I remember you had Melnick Conglomerate. You had the coolest vest you ever created. I'm going to tell you, people can look that up. That's not what you're doing now, but so I know you've always been an entrepreneur. When is the first gun or firearm training that you did? And then when you started doing that as a full-time career?
Okay, so the first firearm training, I was really a child. And my dad had a pellet gun, and in the basement, he had a target trap, which traps the pellets, and he taught me how to shoot a pellet gun. And then shortly thereafter, if anyone grew up in Skokie or Lincolnwood, a lot of people don't know this, but Gabby Hartnett Bowling Alley on Lincoln Avenue, downstairs was actually a gun store and a shooting range. So my dad used to take me 2 to 3 times a month, and it was my dad and Marcus just trip. And so that's how I learned how to do it. I started with 22 caliber revolvers, which if it was any less, it wouldn't be a gun, and worked my way up. As far as doing this professionally, once I migrated, well, actually, I should say early in my career when I was security manager, one of my security positions, it was actually an armed position. So when I was 21, received official certification from the state to carry a firearm. And then in 2000, well, throughout my career, I was always involved in firearms training, kind of on an unofficial route. So, for example, if there was a police officer who wasn't able to hit the target, which happened because sometimes people are new to something and they need practice, just like when you learn how to drive. So I would actually take police officers, go to a shooting range and say, all right, this is what you need to do. And it was informal and it was made to be fun. And in 2013 actually, the Illinois State Legislature passed the Illinois Concealed Carry Act, which allowed people who obtain 16 hours of training and go through background checks and pay a fee to actually carry a firearm in certain circumstances in the public. A colleague of mine on a different police department started his own business and invited me in as one of the few non-relatives to train. Migrated my Melnick conglomerate to the firearms business, obtained licensure, insurance, was bonded, and started my own firearms training business in 2015. I had to think for a moment. Spring of 2015. So it's been 5 years. And the Illinois concealed carry certification is valid for 5 years. And then at the end of that time, the cardholder actually needs to have a supplemental training course. So I'm starting to see the people who trained with me 5 years ago again and again. One of the other things I offer, and people can access this or access me through my website, www.firearmmentor.com, is I give free advice. I don't charge. If someone has a question on what the laws are, what firearms they should go to, what businesses they should support, how they can get involved, I am an email away. Anyone who has any questions on firearms, interest, please look me up. I'm happy to help. When the quarantine, right before the quarantine started, my email box pretty much exploded with people who weren't firearm owners who wanted to obtain training and wanted to purchase a firearm because, as you said early on in the interview, Jordan, people are afraid. And while most likely thing is the firearm will sit in a safe and come out when the person goes to the shooting range, it's a sense of security and safety, knowing that if there is civil unrest, if there is even just a bad guy, that they have the ability to protect themselves, because the police actually are a responsive service where they come after the crime is committed. They do the cleanup, they do the investigation. And although I love and value our police officers, there's not one in every household. So, and also I'll say this, firearms are not for everyone. If somebody has a short temper, if somebody has impulse control problems, or a gun is not going to protect you against someone shooting at you. It would allow you to respond to that and possibly escape from the danger. But I always ask people what their motivations are, what they want to do with it. A lot of times it's a hobby, they've seen other people do it, it's time, they're interested. So I'll basically schedule a lesson with them, take them to a range, have them shoot a couple different guns, and then they make the determination if they really want to invest hundreds to thousands of dollars in a new hobby, because it is not cheap. In Illinois, there is a requirement that somebody who owns, rents, purchases, or even possesses firearms or ammunition have to have what's called a firearm owner identification card, or a FOID card. And a FOID card can be very easily obtained by going to the Illinois State Police website and applying for one. It's $11, it's good for 10 years, and basically it's a background check. It identifies people eligible to handle firearms based upon a lack of criminal background. And as of 2014, there is also a mental health background check. So it says there's also a 72-hour wait when purchasing any firearm in Illinois. And that's an hour by hour wait.
Okay. So what is the average cost, let's say training, to buy a gun? I mean, minimal, you think someone, as you said, it's not an inexpensive hobby. or
Right.
things have changed. So realistically, if someone says, I'm going to own a gun.
Mhm.
So to get trained, to get the FOID card, and I'm sure there's insurance for it too. What is someone
Yes.
looking at?
Uh, the FOID card is a necessary step. Training is actually not necessary, but highly, highly recommended. And I'm not saying that just because I'm a firearms trainer. I'm saying that because as working in the industry, I've seen people who it's very responsible to at least get a mentor or a trainer, someone who does own a firearm, uh, to teach. So a concealed carry class, top to bottom, is typically $200. To purchase a firearm, it's a wide range. It's like, how much is a car? You can spend thousands of dollars, or you can spend $200. A quality modern firearm runs between, I want to say, $300 to $600 or $700, depending on what the person wants, the caliber, etc. All firearms come with a lock, a trigger lock, or a cable lock. However, I advocate and actually insist that someone has a lockable box. Doesn't have to be, a bank vault safe, but a lockable box, particularly if there are people in the home who would be unauthorized users of the firearm. And an unauthorized user is a child, a worker, a cleaning lady, a plumber, a spouse who doesn't have the training, or anyone else that might be in the house. Even if you have a party, the firearm needs to be locked up, which kind of begs the question of, how do you get to your firearm quickly if a burglar breaks into the house? There are biometric safes. There are quick release safes where a punch code is keyed in and a door actually to the safe springs open and your firearm is literally 2 to 3 seconds away, as opposed to the kind of safe that everyone thinks about with turning a dial, kind of like the locks you had in high school, where it takes 3 minutes, and then if you're off by one, it takes another 3 minutes. So there are definitely quick options to quickly retrieve a firearm in case of an emergency.
What sets you apart from all your competitors? There's a lot of people that say, I'm a firearms instructor, trainer, concealed carry.
What sets me apart? Well, I've worked for 27 years in public safety. I have 40 years of firearms experience. Not only do I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in criminal justice, but I'm a graduate of Northwestern University School of Police Staff and Command, which is the cream of the crop of law enforcement administrators. And this is one of the things that really sets me apart. I'm a Cook County court-recognized expert witness. I have a commitment to the people, a lifelong relationship to the people who take my classes. And that lifelong relationships means I am like the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, call a friend. I am always available to answer questions, meet with people, give advice, tell them what the law is, direct them to insurance products that will help them with concealed carry, or even direct them to attorneys who specialize in firearms cases. So I call people back. I email people back. I'm excited about this.
So here's a tough one. Just because I've known you a long time doesn't mean I'm not going to throw you a curveball.
Bring
What
it.
are some of the toughest challenges that you face in your business or your industry, maybe?
In my business, for what I do, and this is actually for any business, the toughest thing that I face is getting customers who understand that they need training. It's not a legal requirement to own a firearm to have training. It is a responsible requirement. So just like car insurance, now when we were growing up, it was not the law. We didn't have to have car insurance. Today, it's the law. So I'm in that phase where any business trying to recruit customers is the challenge. Another challenge, although it hasn't affected my business directly, is the desire, the need for elected officials to enact legislation that is, quote, gun control without without enforcing the current laws in the books. Now, I understand the legislature doesn't enforce laws. However, there are very lenient sentencing guidelines for people who basically go out and commit crimes with firearms. A lot of times they're set out on the street, they're put on probation. So that enacting more laws, I don't look at as the solution. I look at, let's enforce some of the laws that we have on the books, see where we're going. Also, there's two sides to the argument. The side that's pro-firearms says firearms save lives. The side that's anti-firearms says firearms don't save lives. So people really have to do their own research. Maybe this is the biggest challenge. People have to do their own research and not just believe what they hear in the media, on social media, and actually look at the CDC numbers, look at the Department of Justice research. The whole Department of Justice and all the subsidiaries actually do research on violence involving firearms. And firearms are not the most common use or common cause of death. It's knives, hands, baseball bats, accidents. And actually, in the past couple of weeks, gun stores are pretty much out of stock on ammunition. People are flocking to them, and there haven't been mass shootings. And that may be because we're quarantined, but there haven't been an increase in violence based upon all these new purchases. And again, that's my perspective. Someone watching this video may vehemently oppose what I just said, and that's fine. I'm always open to discussion. I'm open to, people can have their own beliefs, and that's fine. For the people who wish to be pro-firearm and wish to educate themselves and actually, own one, and it's a lot of fun to go to the shooting range. That's the customer who I'm looking for, the open-minded person, or even the person who may be a liberal and has been anti-gun their whole life because the party has been anti-gun, and now they're starting to say, well, society's changing. Maybe it's time to start learning.
Or maybe I just want to have a conversation.
Right. And I'm all for conversations. Absolutely. Yes. And I actually, I saw it coming. I have a background when I was working in public safety in emergency management as well, as part of my many hats. So I'll extend out to people if they have questions on what supplies they should buy, how they should prepare their home. I'm certainly open to questions as well.
That might be a separate conversation you and I have, not being recorded off the record, but yeah, I think there's a lot of people, not even gun safety. I just think overall safety for the home is something people take for granted. And as you and I talk here, my first question I ask most people, if we're having a philosophical conversation, I might say, how old is your smoke detector and your carbon monoxide detector?
Yeah.
And they will usually
the batteries, right?
I have no idea. Why? I said, they only last 10 to 15 years, depending on which one. They do? They don't last forever? I thought you just changed the battery out. So they're so concerned about protecting their family. Mm-hmm. And what is much more likely to be an incident is some type of fire in their home.
Yes.
And it's as simple.
And also, it's very simple. How many fire extinguishers do people have? I have 3. I have one in my garage, one under my sink in the kitchen, and one in the laundry room. Those are the areas, well, there can be any electrical outlet, but those are the most higher risk areas. So that's just another safety thing, and fire extinguishers aren't scary. So if people have questions, I'm available.
We're talking safety, which is not necessarily like a gun. So when it comes to safety, when's the last time your lid trap for your dryer was cleaned out?
Yesterday, for me. And actually this week I tested the carbon monoxide detector in the hallways. I did that yesterday. So, and it's also a matter of locking your doors, having exterior lighting, knowing your surroundings. So it's more than just firearms. Firearms, like I said, is a tool. There's other tools in the toolbox to keep people safe as well.
Exactly. And that's, I think, one of the things I was hoping to get out of these interviews is an awareness. Who are your ideal referral partners?
My ideal referral partners are either someone who has a contact with an armored car company or just regular people. And my business to person part of the part of what I do is just word of mouth, telling people, hey, if and that's how my business actually grows. I have someone take a class, they refer 4 people, those 4 people refer 4 more, just like any business. So if someone knows of someone that has a firearm, please, I'd love to have a conversation with them. Even if it's what kind of firearm should I buy, and I'm never going to your class, I would love to give them some advice and say, all right, look, this is what you should buy. These are the safety equipment. You need to get glasses. You need to get hearing protection as well. And those are things people don't think about when they have a firearm. Oh, I'm going to have a firearm, put it in a drawer. Well, who has access to it? Put it in a safe. So, so people shouldn't be obligated to say, well, I'm going to take Marcus's class, or just be honest with me. I've talked to people. I have no interest in a concealed carry permit, but I have questions. I'm available.
Thank you. Share a memorable story, if you don't mind, about an experience about what you do. I know you said you've had a couple people that have intervened. I don't know if those are the more memorable, if you know all the details, but just something where you said, that's why I do what I do. I love what I do.
Sure. I have a former student who worked in a school, and there was a student who was acting very suspicious. Student got up to, I think, go to the restroom, but got up away from his desk. Under his sweatshirt was a firearm. So this former student of mine actually knew what to do, how to unload the firearm, make it safe, and possibly saved lives. So that's really one of the most memorable. And there have been people who have gotten into confrontations, and they were able to conduct. It's not just how to shoot a gun; it's how to conduct yourself, how to be aware in the classes. And because of the class, they realized, all right, my heart rate is accelerated. I'm starting to get sweaty. There's an adrenaline dump going on. This is what's happening to my body. And even though there's a physiological change, they were able to keep their wits about them and get out of danger. I'll leave you with I'll share a lighthearted story with you. I don't know if you remember my mother, Jordan, but she was a little old Jewish lady who was a school librarian. Whatever comes to mind is pretty much my mother, but without the beehive haircut. And when I was, I would say 19 or 20, I took her to the shooting range and I gave her 22. And 22 sounds like a popcorn kernel popping. It's quiet. It's not at all have a lot of recoil. It's not intimidating. And I got into the next booth and I heard this: boom, oi, boom, oi, boom, oi. And I dropped everything to make sure she was okay. I ran over. I said, oh my goodness, are you okay? And she turned to me and said, I'm perfectly fine. And for an hour and a half, that is what I heard. Boom, oi. So there's funny stories that go along, and they're safe. There are funny stories that go along with it
and
too.
Clean.
And clean as well. So, I've had some funny things happen. But again, nobody's ever gotten hurt, in any of my classes, which another thing that sets me apart. Some other instructors are missing fingers, or they have students that were involved in using a firearm illegally. That I screen my people. So, I do a little bit of an interview with them, and a lot of it's word of mouth. So I'll know someone that refers them.
People watching, how can they get a hold of you?
The best way to get a hold of me is go to my website, firearmmentor.com, FIREARMMENTOR.com, and fill out the contact me page. My email is also there, but it's a little complicated, so I won't announce it here. But firearmmentor.com is the way to get a hold of me. I'd love to hear from you.
Okay. Thank you, Marcus, for joining me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jordan.
Glad to hear
Absolute pleasure.
I've known you even professionally the last 20 years, and it's nice to see the transition that you've made. And I think you probably have a career that you enjoy more than of anything you've ever done.
Absolutely. I love it.
And you have the ability of saving lives and changing lives. They're making the world a safer place. So